Hey guys, how's it going? May Gears here. So, if you're looking at the screen, you probably noticed that I have the new run at the time, 1987 Wally West run of The Flash. This is pretty much after a Crisis of Infinite Earths, and Barry Allen was supposedly dead after that, and Kid Flash has to pretty much grow up and become the new Flash. The reason why I have this on here is because this is what really got me into reading The Flash. I decided to just read some digital, copies of The Flash, right? Because where we were, it was flooding, a whole bunch of shops were closed up, there was really nothing to do. So I was like, okay, I'll just read comics. So I read The Flash with Wally West, and I read the Kyle Rayner run of Green Lantern. And it's funny because we're kind of in this weird part where I don't know, we know that DC's doing some cool things with comics. The Age of Heroes is a really good way of getting people into comics. But it seems like a lot of characters aren't written to experience the ups and downs in life. Which, I mean, yeah, you want to suspend disbelief, just ignore reality for a few days. We're not talking about forced agendas in books and all this type of stuff. We're talking about people growing, maturing, and going through things to grow up to be a better character. So many times you just see the heroes, oh yeah, they win because they're the good guy, they're always right because they're the character we're supposed to like, even if they were a horrible person, we're still supposed to root for them because the writer says so, or the publishing house says so. The thing about the Wally West run of The Flash was because that I really enjoyed it was because of the simple fact that Wally West screws up a lot. I want to say in the first 100 issues, he goes from being kind of a jerk because everyone keeps on calling him Kid Flash, or they're like, hey, where's the real Flash? He goes through this. He has to deal with the fact of a legacy that he feels is too big for him. The shoes are too big for him to fill. He goes through the whole thing of him feeling that he will never be as fast as the original Flash, Barry Allen. He goes through a whole bunch of ruined relationships. He goes from being a wealthy, rich guy that wins the lottery to being penniless and broke, from getting kicked from teams, from having friends ruined relationships with his friends, with the Titans, dealing with the fact that he just has to grow up and deal with all these difficult challenges. And that's what made him so cool. That's what made him interesting. And you don't see this. I guess characters aren't written to fail. Characters can't be allowed to fail. To fail forward, to learn from these mistakes and grow from them. And that's what made it cool, because Wally West was the sarcastic, snarky guy, right? He was he was kind of like the, not dude bro, but he was the man child. Let's put it like that. So to see him gradually, become more responsible and pretty much just go through the coming of age story of being a superhero, and as finally filling in the void of being the Flash, was something that I really didn't expect. I just thought, oh, it's gonna be a superhero comic with the Flash. I watched a little bit of the TV show, season 1 of the Flash, which I thought was really good, and then after that it got progressively just less and less good, to the point it just became just a lackluster CW TV show. But you don't get this now. I mean, it's few and far between. There are stories that exist like that, but you don't get cool comics like this. You don't get that. So many books are, filling in with hate speech, or people that are trying to use the books to launch them off to career in movies, or to get their name out there, or to whatever the flavor of the month is, right? If it's to state an agenda, we'll go ahead and state that agenda. We'll go ahead and do that. I don't, I honestly feel that some of the writers don't even agree with this, but they're like, hey, to get my name out there, let me go ahead and sell, this trash. if it's required, if that's what I need to do to go ahead and get my name out there and get famous and get popular. Instead of saying, we're gonna write a good story, give it good art, try some things, be original, create a character in a way where they're relatable but feel grounded. And DC has people that have super speed, that are, space police, that are aliens from other planets, that have just crazy abilities. But to be grounded and be a person that at the end of the day, they still have these internal struggles that every, one of us has gone through. Who hasn't gone through loss of relatives, of loved ones? Who hasn't gone through economic, financial troubles? Who hasn't just gone through the growing pains of life and realizing that the people that you knew, that you thought you were really good friends with, you just grow apart, or just life goes on after these difficulties, and there is no grand lesson or something you can just learn from it. Sometimes you just have to, dust yourself off and just move on with your life, and to just deal with whatever comes. And that's what was so cool about the Flash from the 90s, from the late 80s with Wally West. There were things like this that you got from his character. And he's not the only superhero comic, not even just DC back then, and even we've got comics now that do that. But I see less and less of that. There's just no internal struggle. It's just, hey, here you go. Let's throw in some, references of certain things or TV shows or whatever pop culture references that will be dated 2 or 3 years from now. I mean, no one's gonna look back at Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers' run of Captain Marvel, and say that was good. Kids aren't gonna. You're not gonna give kids Squirrel Girl to read and be like, oh, this is so good. We read this when we were kids. I mean, how many people still look at, read Bone and the Peanuts comic strips and all these other books, and comic strips that were for kids. That were all ages, that meant something, that had some quality to them, that had substance. You're not getting that. But there are very good titles that are still around. I'm not saying there isn't that, but it just seems to be less of it. And I want comics to be able to have more of this. To be like The Flash from the 80s and early 90s. To have this thing where characters were written to be human despite the fact that they have superpowers. But yeah, guys, those are just some quick thoughts I had. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next.